cage. Unlimited we control without domination. Allegiance to desire to control the fate of the world. New world order, empire of the Antichrist, religious corruption, washed by the all-seeing eye. Unlimited we control without domination. Allegiance to desire to control the fate of the world. Illuminati.
And we're in. Alright, what's good, everybody? It is Zerilath. Now, my level should be very up. Very up to reflect the levels that I want for the intense music that I usually play. You should know, when I'm going to a break, you should always remember that I don't have anybody here physically doing anything for me. So, this production is what it is. And I'm having fun. Plain and simple. Okay. Here we are. We got 9 pages left, so we'll see how this goes. Hope you're having a good 11-11. I tried a new breathing technique today. I did a nice hour-long meditation. I don't usually do that. I usually do about a half an hour. So I did an hour-long meditation today, and I did an alternative Wim Hof. So you know how you do the Wim Hof where you kind of do the hyperventilating, then you do a final exhale, hold, and then inhale, hold for just a couple of seconds, and then exhale, and then you start another round just like it, and you're maybe doing all that inhaling for like I don't know, a minute or two straight or something, you're doing like 30 of them or something like that, 30 or 60. I haven't followed a video in a while. I've been doing it without video aid. I've been trying just naturally pushing my limits. When do I feel like stopping, and when do I feel like starting? So what I did differently was that I kind of did an as above, so below perspective. So I would do the exhale. I would hold it until failure. Because I'm meditating. I don't have a timer. I'm listening to a vinyl record while I'm doing this. So I'm just in the ethers. There's no time to count. I'm separated from Chronos, except by the flow of the music, the beat of the heart. And then I inhale. And then I hold the inhale till failure. Then I exhale and inhale. You have to do a small inhale, otherwise, there's like, at least for me doing it, it seemed right that you do then the exhale, but then you also have to inhale again, because you're still cycling some needed air through the system, and B, I think that there's a natural reflex in the diaphragm that's going to open or close, because it's a diaphragm muscle exercise. The diaphragm is not used to holding so much, right? And this deep belly breath work is empowering core strength and helping you have a healthy relationship with your lower chakras and your lower dantian. Hang on a moment. Steve Sippos. Hello, Steve. Nice to meet another Steve. What brings you here? How'd you find me? Are you one of my new subscribers? Tim Timoney, how you doing? Howard Ramberg. Did you reach a frenzied state? Excellent question. It's hard to say. I didn't sleep. I didn't get enough sleep last night because I had to get things done, and then I had to wake up early for the job that I didn't have to do. The garbage dump couldn't hold me because the only position they had for me was in trash sorting, specifically trash sorting conveyor belt. So I got dizzy, nauseous, I could barely say that the trash was a factor in my nausea. Like, honestly, it was pretty standard trash smell. Like, it was no different than like a musk. Oh, okay, you're a fan from Rotting Jewels. I am so honored that I got a Rotting Jewels fan here. Thank you. At least I hope you're really a Rotting Jewels fan. Don't turn into a troll. I know how they fucking treat her. And I know that I'm on the radar and have been for a long time, as I mentioned there. So, one of these days I'll find the Sean David Morton Strange Universe interview with Aquino. I got to get in touch. I got to get back to Melissa, who on the show I had with her. If you watch my show with Melissa Morton, Sean David Morton's widow, I mentioned the Colonel Aquino episode that I can't find, and she says she's got it archived because she archived everything because, she was a real queen for him, or perhaps an empress even, right? So I need to get that because I don't think I talk any time in the episode. I'm holding psychic space. I've got a barrier to keep things on the level because I'm protecting the radio station. Like I'm perhaps overboard. You could call me overboard paranoid if you don't truly get it, right? Okay, so you're on her Patreon. Cool. She posted our interview on her Patreon. because she's hard to get a hold of. She didn't mention anything about getting her a copy of this, so she can mirror this. Obviously, I'm giving her my consent right now, and I'll send her a message saying, "Hey, did you want this?" But anyway, like I said, very cool. Thank you for being here. I'm glad this is also interesting to you. And I mentioned the Saul Alinsky stuff with her on the show, so that's just the prior thing that I watched. You should definitely check that out if you're interested in the Che Guevara stuff. I jump around a lot of different topics. I'm like very Aquarian like that. I'm in a mystery school. I think myself a wizard, so I'm weird and I'm fun and I'm cool or something. But anyway, so what is then sought? Or so the art of the last century. So here's Che Guevara is, I suppose, about to take a shit on the 19th century. What is then sought is simplification. What everyone understands, that is what the functionaries understand. True artistic experimentation is obliterated, and the problem of general culture is reduced to the assimilation of the socialist present and the dead and therefore not dangerous past. Socialist realism is thus born on the foundation of the art of the last century. But the realistic art of the 19th century is also class art, perhaps more purely capitalist than the decadent art of the 20th century, where the anguish of alienated man shows through. Okay, so he's probably looking at... Okay, so he's making a critique of man's culture through his high art. Now look, you're living in a certain world, and then you got people that are all about that certain world and the way they treat you or whatever, right? Like they look down on you or whatever. And you want to protect your own, right? Which is the nationalist, socialist and nationalist, national socialist, in so many terms. But because it's communism, like the embargoes. I think basically the embargoes were there so Cuba didn't become the Soviet Union. So we don't really understand what the embargoes are really for in any other special kind of way. I mean, have they really been hostile to other nations? They're not in a position to be hostile to other nations by the look of their output of human resources. How many fucking badasses are they fucking churning out? I mean, they may have more badasses percentile-wise, perhaps, than the United States, but they're way smaller than the United States, so that percentile is different. Yeah. Yes. So am I. And there's a lot more I want to know, right? Because there's all sorts to the fight. And so this is... it's all about that fueling ammunition. The deocculting aspect is very important too. So, but the granted, all this in like Setian, Processian, like all this is very, very familiar stuff. It's when it starts going out of bounds, when it starts going into stuff that's beyond the cookie cutter, what you recognize of Kabbalism, Talmudism, Babylonian, mainstream Babylonian, Egyptian, or what it like, when you start getting into some more archaic shit, then you're dealing with somebody operating with a different level of magic, a different comprehension. They have a different grasp on the past. And when you have a grasp on the past, you have a command of the future. And that's what I am doing. I'm working on a grasp on the past. That's why I talked to Dana, talking about how my mind for history works juxtaposed, and the conversation to have is working towards a bridging of gaps of the cults of our very recent day, which makes it more understandably in existence and real, because, you know, the proteges of all this fucking shit from the 60s and 70s are the madmen running the house today. Is she on YouTube? Yeah, dude. Yeah, like, I said it in the show that I put it in the description box. You're not checking my description boxes? I put it in the description box. Anyway, what I should have done is I should have edited the end card and put her channel in the end card. I did not do that. And that's because I'm always thinking in terms of what I do for setup in Streamlabs, and Streamlabs doesn't give me an end card option, because that only happens when you end the show over on YouTube's side. Yeah, her podcast. Her podcast's on Spotify, so you can find Rotting Jewels on Spotify. Yeah, what is, quote, the process, unquote. Okay. But the realistic art in the 19th century is also class art, perhaps more purely capitalist than the decadent art of the 20th. Where the anguish of it, yeah, okay, so gives the remains of the, alien man show through. In culture, capitalism has given all that it had to give, and all that remains of it is the foretaste of a bad-smelling corpse. No, we have planes, trains, automobiles, big industrial boats, we have, we have companies that fed the world. They fed the world in an unsustainable way, and then it got unfed. Or it feeds as much of the world as it can at a time, but it runs around and it definitely feeds the world. And it did that through a lot of American agriculture. We don't starve in this country. A poor person never fucking starves for real in America. There's real or synthetic food that'll do the job, that's cheap or gifted, that'll pop out of somewhere. Guaranteed. There's nothing to resent from that if it's just given, right? It feels like it's freer to just get it from the state, but they want so much money from you, which is to get you into fucking work or debt or whatever. You don't want it. You really don't. Because you're going to have a hard time understanding economic consequences. We don't understand them now. The economic consequences are that it's easy to convince us that we're in an economic crisis because we don't know if we're in an economic crisis, because they deliberately made our economy too hard to understand through what must be done to uphold the Keynesian system. Which, I don't know, man. I don't know if it's really meant to last. What I do know is that the boom and bust cycle is really, really unfortunate, because too many people get caught with their pants down in the bust. Because usually there's some bullshit that nobody really saw coming. Right? And usually because they don't believe in conspiracy theories. But anyway. No, I'm too stoned to never check. Alright, I forgive you, but you have to work on your stoned and focused discipline like I do. Okay. But why endeavor to seek in the frozen forms of socialist realism the only valid recipe? Freedom, in quotation marks, cannot be set against socialist realism because the former does not yet exist. Interesting. Okay, so freedom cannot be set against socialist realism because the former does not exist. So freedom does not exist. So socialist realism he has rationalized as the pan-ultimate. And you understand this when he understands, when he wants socialism to be highly collective. And he doesn't want to have the diversity of art. There are certain things in the liberal concept of socialism that are highly diverse, right? This is why we make the clown show joke, because, you see, they have their way of, like, a handful of things are hands down everything they agree with, and then they have what they are permitted to internally fight about while getting screwed on the large issues that matter in the long run. And the long run entirely depends on whether they're still entertaining the death cult that they've been indoctrinated in since the 2000s forward and such. It will not come into being until the complete development of the new society, but let us not attempt to condemn all post-mid-19th century art forms from the pontifical throne of realism at all costs. That would mean committing the proud Honian error of the return of the past and straitjacketing the artistic expression of the man who was born and being formed today. Okay, but you just tore down art as a whole. In the prior passage, you heard the way he fucking phrased it. He tore down art as a whole. I'm assuming that this motherfucker lived long enough for this letter to be seen in English translation, for him to judge whether that translation is proper. I mean, Fidel Castro definitely had lived or has lived. I'm pretty sure he's dead, right? I don't even care to check, to be honest. I might have said that the other day, too. An ideological and cultural mechanism must be developed which will permit experimentation and clear out the weeds that shoot up so easily in the fertilized soil of state subsidization. The 21st century man, the era of... Hold on, let me read that last bit again. Okay, an ideological and cultural mechanism must be developed which will permit the experimentation, clear out the weeds, shoot out so easily fertilized soil of the state. So he wants to prune art, right? So there's going to be some sort of art permitted, but there's going to be wrong art. Like there's wrong think. This is wrong expression. This guy fucking hates the human soul. Dear fucking God. I mean, has this man ever seen the world? I think I answered that question when I asked the AI. But I don't remember the answer. Wrong symbols. Are you do you mean with the whole pruning of the art as in art being symbolic? That would be exactly correct. It would be him being cunning enough to know when subversive symbolism is there. And because he's got a gun and you don't, guess what? You know what this is? You know what the fuck this is? Equilibrium. This is Equilibrium. This is the Christian Bale movie Equilibrium. It's that fucking dystopia. The bad guys. It's just... all of this shit. Right? Now, you see, it took a long time. Somebody who liked to do all the film writing in Hollywood, they told the stories in a way where nobody knew who they were talking about through those film allegories. So a lot of the people that those films represent are the people in charge, being mocked by the people that they're in the contract with, but they don't have a self-reflection because they're vampires. So they can't tell that it's them, and they have no shame. Yeah, fallen angel aesthetics, and that's what the Equilibrium story is, because he's one of their elite agents, and he turns against them, guns a-blazing, to free art and humanity in this particular way. But anyway, the era of mechanical realism has not appeared in Cuba, but rather the contrary. This is so because of the lack of understanding of the need to create a new human being who will represent neither 19th century ideas nor those of our decadent and morbid century. It is the 21st century. The morbid century. This guy's rich. This guy's fucking rich. He is the morbid century. We all know what he fucking did. I'm going to give you a hint. This episode, I'm going to let you know I've picked two films on Che Guevara to break down. One, I have to scan them a little bit more so in case I want to change my mind, because I only gave him a peek. But I tried to get one that was pro-Che and one that was anti-Che. Anti-Che. Is it anti-Che? Like anti-Che? Anti-Che? Anti-Che sounds like a real word, but I'm not going to look it up right now. Anyway. Let's create, although it's still subjective aspiration. This is precisely one of the basic points of our studies and work. To the extent that we make concrete achievement on a theoretical base or vice versa, that we come to broad theoretical conclusions on the basis of our concrete studies, we will have made a valuable contribution to Marxism-Leninism, to the cause of mankind. The reaction against 19th century man has brought a recurrence of the 20th century decadence. It is not a very serious error, but we must overcome it so as not to leave the doors open to revisionism. The large multitudes of people. Now the question is exactly how far does he explain he hates decadence, right? The results are quite easy to see when you look at colonial Cuban life versus nationalist Cuban life. And they destroyed a lot of the wealthier properties. They don't exist anymore, right? The radical changes, right? Same way people talk about how, women were cool and cultured, awesome type of fun, sociable human beings, very similar to Westerners in Tehran until, the Islamic Caliphate or whatever. Till the Ayatollah. And I also heard that there's a cultural revolution going on. I heard there's a lot of women being ultra fucking protesting the burqa and shit. I think the cultural revolution is falling apart. We'll see what happens. The reaction against 19th century man has brought a recurrence of the 20th century decadence. It is not a very serious error, but we must overcome it so as not to leave the doors open to revisionism. Oh no, let us not amend our thinking upon new facts and context. The large multitudes of people are developing themselves. The new ideas are acquiring an adequate impetus within society. The material possibilities of the integral development of each and every one of its members make the task ever more fruitful. The present is one of struggle, the future is ours. Yep, it certainly is. You certainly took the future, and how do you like the future that you have? Would you like to keep it? Are you convinced that you're going to hurt somebody because you let somebody work for themselves for real and choose to ask for more money than the baseline of the state? That terrifies you so much. No faith in the human condition to let anybody individually do a thing. They can only ask permission for the state to give them a position to do a thing. And so the only things that ever happen in your state are at the agenda of whoever controls the state. And it's not you. Unless, I mean, is everybody armed in their little legislature there? I don't feel like asking. But anyway. Intellectuals, intellectuals not authentically revolutionary. Okay. That statement, he may have a point in this passage, because I can understand the truth in that, because I'm very careful about how I posture my rhetoric, because I have an activist heart. An activist isn't a revolutionary, though. There is the potential for a revolution in me, but the intellectual is doing his thing. And because this intellectual may be a wizard, I may be effecting a change in the world far beyond the reach of people's normal understanding. Hey, Susie Q is here. How you doing, Susie? To sum up the fault of many of our intellect... You know what? It's 7:05. We covered 2 pages. We're doing good. We are going to take the break. We're working with blackened death metal today, which is one of my favorite genres. I opened up with God Dethroned from, I think, one of their new albums, and I love God Dethroned, especially the old shit and some of the newer shit. There's a couple of middle era albums that are good. They're good, but they didn't quite slap like the stuff coming out now and the stuff coming out then, right? It's one of those situations. And I met Henry from God Dethroned. He's a fucking cool dude. Tall as fuck. And I'm 5'6", so that's not saying much. Let's see. So many good songs, so many good bands. But I like looking for stuff. Like, the one thing that's always tough in the metal genre is finding shit that isn't just obnoxiously satanic. Let's see. All right, this band's called Weregoat, which is fucking that's a great name, and this is Nuclear Cunt. Alright. Oh, hold on. Yikes. Dear God. Alright. Alright. That was good. I didn't know it was gonna have like that reminded me of a more like old school black metal production with the way like it sounded like the drums were like not clipping but just the way it has that scratchiness to it because of the intensity and some of the levels were not so puncturing, but I'm listening to what it is beyond the production that's not grabbing me, and it's good shit. So I like them. Maybe that's an older album. Sometimes the first album is like that. Blasted or not, laugh out loud. Like the music. Wait, Susie, did the audio behave properly? That's what I'm asking. Is this, did anybody have to adjust their shit because I blew up their bone, right? You guys all right? Everybody didn't have to fuck with their audio levels that time? So let's get back to the show, okay? All right, I'm excited. To sum up, the fault of many of our intellectuals and artists is to be found in their original sin. They are not authentically revolutionary. We can attempt to graft elm trees so that they bear pears. But at the same time, we must plant pear trees. The new generation will arrive free of original sin. The likelihood that exceptional artists will arise will be that much greater because of the enlargement of the cultural field and possibilities for expression. Okay, freedom from original sin, I actually agree with this point. However, he is, you see, the people who believe in original sin have had their true roots cut off from them because they are dealing with mythology and making it literal. And it's not even Jewish mythology. That was lost to time for the time being, and this is the Uranus and Gaia myth, kind of repurposed with a couple of names changed to protect the guilty. Yes, it did, only at that last moment. Oh, yeah, the last moment was, that's why I had to hit pause, like, because it just goes into the next song, and maybe you know what, let me look at the Spotify real quick before I continue. Okay, how do I don't want to enable repeat. I want it to come to an end. And I want it to not go to the next video. That's all I wanted to do was stop. All right, I'm gonna have to find out how to make it stop at the end of the song, because the continuous, almost endless playlist feature of Spotify is great if I need to fucking not think about song selection, and a lot of these playlists are made by people with exceptional taste. The kind of people that would have been making the dope-ass fucking, like, mix track to be handing out around the club. Alright. So, he is taking a transplanted person and then taking them out of a lie that's rooted in an ancient mystery that can be deciphered, and you can break out of the pottery and into the firm soil. That's kind of how I look at it when you're going straight from Christian or post-Christian secular materialist thinking Because remember, everybody's either a Christian or posturing the Christian Western ethos as their religion. And they really just worship the idea of America more than they worship, you know, God in the way they see them at the church. And so Che Guevara, we talked a little bit about his background. You know, he's educated. He was of, he's a bit of a charlatan here, you know, because he came from something. Right? He's acting like Lucifer. It's just like, I'm the wealthy guy who's going against the upbringing of my parents. Right? You know, he's condemning his parents, because that's the only way you're going to win. Right? And yet, his entire education is coming from the machine itself, and he fails to see the irony of it. Right? Because he doesn't understand the actual true relationship of communism to the interests around the world as such. Or he's implicit in it. Either way, he was a made man and he eventually got his comeuppance. Why did they take out Che, but they didn't take out Fidel? They couldn't have fucking taken out Fidel and let the socialist government put in an inferior man? Or maybe the way it is, Fidel is really just a strong man, and he's just good at being a strong man, because as you can tell, it's not a very intelligent country. So it would just put another strong man in who's going to do the exact same job, because they've kind of perfected the system, right? I'd imagine their little charade is perfected by now. And I guess some of them are happy. Anyway. Our job is to keep the present generation maladjusted by its conflict from becoming perverted and perverting the new generations. We do not want to create salaried workers docile to official thinking, nor fellows who live under the wing of the budget, exercising freedom in quotation marks. Revolutionaries will come to sing to song of the new man with the authentic voice of the people. It is a process that requires time. You have to ask yourself, what the fuck was it like where this guy could just say this to the world and it doesn't come off as evil? How good were they at making these people look evil that he fucking destroyed? Right? Or did people just not realize he was talking about those people? Because that's what happens a lot, is that they all of a sudden they feel like they're the ones that have been turned against. In our society, the youth and the party play a big role. The former is particularly important because it is malleable clay with which the new man, without any of the previous defects, can be formed. Youth receives treatment in consonance with our aspirations. Education is increasingly integral and and we do not neglect the incorporation of the students into work from the very beginning. Our scholarship students do physical work during vacation or together with their students. In some cases, work as a prize, while in others it is an educational tool. It is never punishment. A new generation is born. Now, look, I think it's great, that but that's like American capitalism is based on the egalitarian work ethic, which was instilled in the Protestants. And the Protestants are a somewhat anti-spiritual kind of, like, it makes sense, right? Because the Protestant wanted to, had to bust their ass because they wanted to do things the hard way, because they wanted to worship God their own way. Thus, their cultures suffered from having the issues of what they lacked from not getting from being within the papacy's rulerships, right? Their people and their king, because we're talking about the times when you had kingdoms that were turning into empires and such. They kept their own form of Christianity, and thus led to all of this stuff, led to the colonization in the goddamn fucking first place, right? Even if it was from the elites of that religion. Now, there's, I believe, the quote Jewish component. I think that the Jews knew they needed to get the fuck out of Europe because of the Inquisition. And or the attitudes around the Inquisition, whether it was before it or after it or whatever. And so they were fucking hightailing it out of there, because no doubt Kabbalism would have been under attack under the Malus Maleficarum, because that would have been the most popular form of magic being practiced by the Catholics that were going after each other. And the Protestants were Christians that were not interested in the Catholic way of incorporating the Jewish practice with everything. The Jewish practice was meant to be incorporated into Jesus and Jesus alone. So you get this idea, right? So this creates certain issues, and I think it's part and parcel of the reason why you get so much socialist support coming from the new Vatican. As it's looking for all these different angles to reduce Protestantism, including flooding this country with a bunch of Catholics of South American Catholicism, which will then also bring the problems of that culture, and we would like to decline the problems of your culture, and we'd like to help you with your problems from over there, but don't bring them here, because it keeps persisting at source, because we don't want to be like that over here, and the people that are coming here are trying to get away from you guys who are being like that. Or the worst of the worst of you guys who are like that, who's trying to escape the justice for the consequences of going a little too far with what they tolerated. In our society, the youth and party play a big role. The former is particularly important because it is the malleable clay with which the new man without any of the previous defects can be formed. Youth receives treatment in consonance with our aspirations. Education is increasingly integral, and we do not neglect the incorporation of the student into work from the very beginning. Our scholarship students do physical work during the vacation or together with their studies. In some cases, work is a prize, while in others it is an educational tool. Oh, damn, I read all of that. I didn't update where I highlighted, and, geez. Okay. Alright. Anyway, I've repeated myself, so that was fun. Let's see how you guys do in our chat. Play gotta bounce. Sorry, sins pushed all the humans. Yeah, Sims creative. Yeah, original sin doesn't exist, like being more. Yeah. Okay, cool. So, the Party Vanguard. The Party Vanguard Organization. The Party is a vanguard organization. The best workers are proposed by their comrades for membership. Oh, I'm sorry, say that again? What do you mean the best workers? You're communists. There's no best worker. There's no best worker at all. Original sin doesn't exist. So everybody's hitting the mark, buddy. Everybody's on point. So the party is a minority, but the quality of its cadres give it great authority. Our aspiration is that the party becomes a mass one, but only when the masses reach the level of development of the vanguard, that is when they are educated for communism. Our work is aimed at providing that education. The party is the living example. Its cadres must be full professors of assiduity and sacrifice. With their acts, they must lead the masses to the end of the revolutionary task, which means years of struggle against the difficulties of construction, the class enemies, the defects of the past, and imperialism. Yeah, so you see, you see, like, this is, what did he just explain? He just explained how you create a high priest class for your government. This is the new, that's passage right there, are the priest class of socialism. If you meet people that fit this bill, they are your direct enemy. Psychic enemy. You're having arguments with these people. These are the enforcers of the ideal. They don't want your spirit of independent and competitive excellence. They think that your successes is contributing to their failures. I should now like to explain the role played by the personality. The man is the individual who leads the masses that make history. This is our experience and not a recipe. Oh, okay, your experience, Mr. Shea. Let's hear about it. Fidel gave impulse to the revolution in its first years. He has always given it leadership and set the tone, but there is a good group of revolutionaries developing in the same direction as Fidel, and a large mass that follows its leaders. Because it has faith in them, it has faith in them because these leaders have known how to interpret the longings of the masses. All right. So that the individual feels more fulfilled. It is not a question of how many kilograms of meat are eaten. See, he's on the metric system. That's his fucking problem. Yeah, Europe, shut up. Or how many times a year someone may go on holiday to the seashore, or how many pretty imported things can be bought with present wages. I think also it's the Jewish element, which we're talking about the Masons here, right? The Masonic element. The Jews and the Masons, I think they're the ones keeping the 12-point system alive. At least the Jews that are working with 12-point magic, right? The Masons are obviously working with 12-point magic, which is why the vanguards of our government, which are in the Masons, are holding, what do we call it? It's the fucking royal system. And, anyway, some would say that the royal system is like basically a Christian measuring system, effectively. And they don't like it for that reason, and they want to go to the metric system because they don't have to think so hard about things because they're all in decimals of 10. But I don't know. I like the royal system. Sue me. So, the first came to know it in the Sierra Maestra, and wherever there was fighting, later we have known it all in Cuba. Cuba is the vanguard of America and must make sacrifices because it occupies the advanced position, because it points out to the Latin American masses the road to full freedom. Within the country, the leaders have to fulfill their vanguard role, and it must be said that it must be said with complete sincerity that in a true revolution to which you give yourself completely without any thought for material retribution, the task of the vanguard revolutionary is both magnificent and anguishing. Let me say, with the risk of appearing ridiculous, that the true revolutionary is guided by strong feelings of love. Well, sure, you gotta love something, I'd imagine. I couldn't imagine somebody hating something so hard if they didn't love something by contrast in which purpose is given. And they seem to love the conformity of making everybody into something they think will make life in this world better for everyone else. And as long as your life is better and you've eliminated everybody who's complaining like they did in 2020, then you've succeeded in succeeding. You've succeeded in having success by any means necessary, as Saul Alinsky would put it, wouldn't he now? So, let me say, with the risk of... Yeah, okay, revolution without Okay, it is impossible to think of an authentic revolutionary without this quality. This is perhaps one of the great dramas of a leader. He must combine an impassioned spirit with a cold mind and make painful decisions without flinching. Our vanguard revolutionaries must idealize their love for the people, for the most hallowed causes, and make it one and indivisible. They cannot descend with small doses of daily affection to the terrain where the ordinary men put their love into practice. All right, a large dose of humanity, which we will cover in the next break because it is 7:30. All right. I'm going to go with The Bloody Path of God by Mystic Circle. Hey, okay. So, ultimately, the levels are good then. Everything's copacetic. I shouldn't adjust a thing. Right? Because if that's so, then I know exactly how I really need to set it. I'm staring at the knobs. I know what I'm looking at. The leaders of the revolution have children who do not learn to call their father with their first faltering words. They have wives who must be part of the general sacrifice of their lives to carry the revolution to its destination. Their friends are strictly limited to their comrades in revolution. There is no life outside the revolution. Right, this is like the Hitler Youth, right? He's establishing the Hitler Youth, his Hitler Youth. In these conditions, the revolutionary leaders must have a large dose of humanity, a large dose of a sense of justice and truth to avoid falling into dogmatic extremes, into cold scholasticism, into isolation from the masses. So it's whichever Marxist humanity definition he is operating with, whether it be Marx's definition of humanity or Marx's influencers' definition of humanity. You know what? I think I could ask that question. I'm going to ask that question. So, let me go a grokkin'. All right. What was Karl Marx's definition of humanity? Marx's core idea of humanity as species being. The human being is a species being because he treats himself as the actual living species, because he treats himself as a universal and therefore a free being. Economic and Philosophic Manuscripts of 1844. Okay. I mean, okay. Is a species because he treats himself as the actual living species. All right, I don't think he's wrong in saying that. I think there's a truth in that particular point, which also means it's out of alignment. Just that very statement alone actually puts Che Guevara out of alignment with Karl Marx, meaning that Che had an intermediary teacher informing his Marxist ideas. Conscious life activity, universal and free production. Humans produce even when free from physical need, for art, science, or pleasure. Yeah, for art, Shay! This universality means human labor can transform nature and themselves in ways that transcend mere survival. Yes, it's the ingenuity of invention, which will be promoted either by business, by the monarch, by by your dictator state, your communist fucking whatever. It's just like, the point is that they'll either do it on their own or they'll do it out of an interest of a challenge. Sometimes a guy needs help getting something done, and so he wants to hire the best guy to do it, so he offers the most money. Well, he offers the job to the one who can show the best demonstration of what he's going to need them to actually do, or close to it, because it's a challenge. Perhaps it's the first time, so you're asking somebody who knows how to drill shit, but has they ever drilled something this big before? It's that kind of circumstance. Humans realize their essence in through others. True human life is social, cooperative, and communal. Isolation or exploitation distorts this. Yes. But part of human existence is also the opportunities for private time, for private reflection, for time in isolation. No need to sit there and continually, like, reinforce dogma. It's just self-evident that you're already, like, it's all your friends and family and a decent community and etc., etc. That's all that is. And we got a society right now that there's a lot of people that have a lot of troubles and don't know how to be kinder human beings. And I think that this terrible show of government that we're watching, it's almost like the script is make the government finally look completely evil for a hot minute under gaslighting so that it isn't actually evil, and thus it gets blown up at just the right moment to disappoint everybody in whatever revolutionary cause they thought they were fighting for, which is how they imploded the left. They imploded wokeness. And they're still just a bit lost about it, because obviously they're still living in active souls that are here. They're just trying to fight for their things or whatever, you know. But they got nothing new to say, you know. And enough time has passed where I heard Senator Kennedy just read AOC's net worth increase over the last 5 or whatever years, right? And just let everybody in Congress, the entire world know, like, yeah, bitch, you one of us now. Stop being a hypocrite and, you know, be authentic. Be legit with people. So anyway. So, in capitalist society, workers are alienated from the product of their labor. Well, yes, they are. They're alienated from the product of their labor, but also you are not interested in that. You're motivated by money and your own inherent pride in your work, which raises your personal value. The act of production, mechanical, unfree. Okay, I'm sorry, that's just a fact of life. There's things we gotta do, like, unless you want to live in huts, unless you want to be hunter-gatherers, and set up camp every night and be real fucking primitive, you're gonna have to put some very mechanical, unfree production work in for a few hours of your fucking day for the joy of the fucking product. Okay? This fucking job that I didn't want to do but did want to do. See, this thing I just got fired from yesterday is a perfect example. I showed up for a fucking $5 wage cut because I can't find work right this second to go work sorting trash at a private company that takes in trash from the region. And unfortunately, the only position available I couldn't fucking handle. It made me sick. And not even because it was trash, but because I had to fucking stare at a conveyor belt. So it just ain't gonna work out for me. It's not a position that I can do. I literally can't do it. Maybe one day I can. Maybe one day I will discover the secret to mastering motion sickness. But until that day, I'm a bit fucked. I probably should do that because I love roller coasters and I don't want to get fucking nauseous on the roller coaster. But anyway. I also haven't been to a goddamn theme park in forever, and that's because I ain't got nobody to go to a theme park with. because I've alienated myself. Like, the alienated person is free. The freedom is a struggle. Like, okay, hold on a second. All right, I got another question. I got another question now for Grok. All right. Whoa. All right. How many hours a week did Cubans work before the revolution? All right. Cuba's labor laws before 1959 revolution were primarily shaped by the Progressive Constitution in 1940, so this is 19 years, and earlier reforms under leaderships like Fulgencio Batista in the 1930s. Batista's an interesting name, which is why it was chosen as the wrestling name for the wrestler Batista. These established some of the most advanced worker protections in Latin America at the time, including limits on daily and weekly hours. However, actual hours often varied by sector: urban, rural, industrial, and agricultural. Enforcement and economic pressures like sugar harvesting season, unemployment, underemployment were common, especially in rural areas. So many workers did not consistently reach a full week. That sounds like me, like right now. Big fucking whoop. Legal standard. The standard work week was 48 hours. That is not fucking bad at all. And that was over 6 days. So that's not even like, okay, so 6 days kind of sucks, but you're talking about, like, if that's over 6 days, that's like what? That's like a 7-hour day? Right? So it's, it's like you've got an evening to get things done. That's not that bad. That's not that bad. Daily limit was 8 hours with overtime pay required beyond that. Okay. Night work limited to 7 hours per day. 1 rest day per week. Okay. I'm a big 2 rest day a week person, but that's fucking great. You don't need to fucking overthrow an entire government to get 1 more day off at work. For fuck's sake. Urban industrial workers in cities like Havana were much of the organized labor force were concentrated. Effective average was close to 40 to 44. All right, I've heard enough. It's just like America. Fuck this guy's couch. Fuck this guy's couch. They were doing things just like we're doing in America. Fuck this guy's couch. That's like, were they exploited? Maybe they weren't even fucking exploited. I'm starting to think that just looking at that fucking statistic, unless that's a lie. In these conditions, the revolutionary leaders must have a large dose of humanity, a large dose of a sense of justice and truth to avoid falling into dogmatic extremes, into cold scholasticisms, into isolation from the masses. They must struggle every day so that their love of living humanity is transformed into concrete deeds, into act that will serve as an example as mobilizing factor. Right, and he believes he can achieve this by destroying wrongthink, so there isn't possibly a person in the world that you could not love, or only men of humanity exist. Sometimes I think of the Little Dictator speech from Charlie Chaplin, and it's got a beautiful double layer of irony. And it becomes a triple layer when you get into esoteric Nazism. Whether you are for Hitler or against it. Esoteric Nazism is a true aspect of history that must be de-occulted and understood. So that way we do not lose our humanity by never understanding the darker shadow aspects of what was behind the mindset, the soul set of the men that were taken over by the Wetiko of National Zionism. The revolutionary ideological motor of the revolution within his party is consumed by the uninterrupted activity that ends only with death, unless construction is achieved on a worldwide scale. If his revolutionary eagerness becomes dulled when the most urgent tasks are carried on a local scale, and if he forgets about proletarian internationalism, the revolution that he leads cease to be a driving force, and it sinks into a comfortable drowsiness which is taken advantage of by imperialism, our irreconcilable enemy, to gain ground. Ah, yes. So he wants proletarian internationalism over imperialism. And it's the same thing. It's the same thing. You would just be seeing the macrocosm of Cuba today. Cuba's been allowed to be this autonomous zone forever. Right? And the American attitude, by the time the actual Soviet Union fell, was in no place prepared to or felt necessary the impulse to take Cuba back because of how we allowed the idea of the Department of Defense to warp us, right? So if Cuba is a proletarian international, copy. All right, I got another good question. Another one. Here comes another one. Okay. What countries today are proletarian internationalism? All right. Cuba is the closest to it. China after that. Vietnam, North Korea, Venezuela, and Laos. Now think about America's posture towards Cuba and the difference between that and its posture towards North Korea. And why are we so soft on North Korea and so brutal on Venezuela right now? And we don't fucking care about Laos. As far as we know, the Laotian government is not any worse than any other place. A lot of fucking Asian nations are not really interested in fucking with the United States beyond economic stuff that affects their country. That's what I've noticed by and large. And then once in a while they're involved with various international affairs. So this is so this makes sense, and I believe all those countries are friendly towards each other, I think. Right? So China, China makes it the biggest deal. China and Vietnam. Yeah, I'd say China and Vietnam then would be our most successful models. And China, unfortunately, is also a failed model because they've been suppressing the population destruction from COVID. It was a nightmare. On the plus side, I don't think we ever have to worry about a Chinese invasion ever again. Because you had the COVID wipeout, which involved some young people too, which also means that it's double horrendous because of how long they had the one-child policy. And for all this to happen only recently after the one-child policy. Ugh. But anyway. The revolution that he leads ceases to be a driving force. Okay, imperialism and universal enemy of the ground. Proletarian internationalism is a duty, but it is also a revolutionary road. This is how we educate our people. Dangers of dogmatism and weaknesses. It is evident that there are dangers in the present circumstances, not only that of dogmatism, not only that of the freezing up of relations, that the masses in the midst of the great task, there also exists the danger of weakness in which it is possible to incur if a man thinks that in order to devote his entire life to the revolution, he cannot be distracted by the worry that one of his children lacks a certain article, that the children's shoes are in poor condition, that his family lacks some necessary item. With this reasoning, the seeds of future corruption are allowed to filter through. In our case, we have maintained that our children must have or lack what the children of the ordinary citizen have or lack. Our family must understand this and struggle for it. The revolution is made by man, but man must forge his revolutionary spirit from day to day. Thus we go forward. Fidel is at the head of the immense column. We are neither ashamed nor afraid to say, so followed by the best party cadres, and right after them, so close that their great strength is felt, come the people as a whole, a solid bulk of individualities, moving towards a common aim. Individuals who have achieved the awareness of what must be done, men who struggle to leave the domain of necessity and enter that of freedom. We're not going to have an 8 p.m. break because we're on the last page and a half, basically. That immense, well, no, it's 2 pages. How much is left of this page? Right. Well, that immense multitude, maybe I'll take the break anyway. That immense multitude is ordering itself. Its order responds to an awareness of the need for order. It is no longer a dispersed force, divisible in thousands of fractions shot into space like the fragments of a grenade, trying by any and all means in a fierce struggle with their equals to achieve a position that would give them support in the face of an uncertain future. We know that we have sacrifices ahead of us and that we must pay a price for the heroic fact of constituting a vanguard as a nation. We, the leaders, know that we must pay a price for having the right to say that we are at the head of the people that is at the head of America. Each and every one of us punctually pays his share of sacrifice, aware of being rewarded by the satisfaction of fulfilling our duty, aware of advancing with everyone towards the new human being who is to be glimpsed on the horizon. All right. So, we're going to jump into a last break, and then we're going to do the 2 last pages. So, what do I want to throw at us this time? All right. Oh, wait, no, that's 8 minutes. I was about to throw some 1914 at you, but A7V Mephisto is 8 minutes plus. But you know what? I do want to play. Let me see if 1914's got a. There's a 6-minute song. I want to get it under 6 minutes. What we got here? Come on. Where's the track list? The Blind. Okay, The Blind Leading the Blind. I'm gonna go with this album because it's got the right title for the context. Okay, all right, good. All right, we got songs here. All right. I'm gonna go with Highwood, 75 Acres of Hell. Let's find out what this is gonna be. I forgot to close the screen, so you got to watch me scroll on my phone for 3 minutes. Welcome back to the show. It's a good thing I didn't do anything embarrassing. All right, let's wrap this goddamn book up, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about what I'm looking forward to next. We are more free because we are more fulfilled. Allow me to attempt to come to some conclusions. We socialists are more free because we are more fulfilled. We are more fulfilled because we are more... Anyway, circular logic. The skeleton of our complete freedom is formed, but it lacks the protein substance and draperies we will... But it lacks the protein substance and the draperies, we will create them. Our freedom and its daily sustenance are the color of blood and swollen with sacrifice. Our sacrifice is a conscious one. It is the payment for the freedom we are building. The freedom to... You know what? I forgot to ask. I should have asked the very important follow-up question. Bear with me. All right. Whoops. Okay. How many hours is a work week in Cuba today? $44 hours. All right. 8 hours a day for 5 days a week. They get 2 days off. All right. They won that. Yeah. Okay. And it's a half day on. It's a half day on Saturday. Wait. 8 hours per day for 5 days. Oh, okay. So they only got half a day off. Dude, they for them full time is 44 hours. They have to work 4 more hours, half of a day. That's everybody. That's basically everybody. There's no excuses. Same thing, 8 hours, 7 hours at night. 4 hours overtime paid 1 point. They have overtime pay in Cuba. Okay? There's a theoretical private self-employed, which I'm sure that comes from the nuance of their system. And then there's agricultural tourism with seasonal adjustments. All right. Dude, like, you fought a revolution for fucking nothing. I don't know what to tell you. You're working the same fucking hours and you've got less. And, I don't know if your poor people are being better fed. Literally, the whole revolution was a waste of time, and you've been denying yourself a better life. Because you wanted to make sure that nobody was fucking exploited, but everybody had to work. For the state, basically. And with the exception of amazing singers, I don't know what the hell you fucking produce. Amazing singers, amazing cigars. What else do you make in Cuba? Excuse me. I suppose you make good AK-47s or something? If you can make that. Where was I? Okay, our freedom sacrifice, freedom we're building. The road is long, 21st century. Okay, the road is long and in parts unknown. We are aware of our limitations. We will make the 21st century man. We ourselves. Yeah, nope. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You've been stuck in 1960. Or you've been stuck where you've been since forever. And all you've done is give everybody a full-time job at shit wages, and your economy reflects that. Because you don't have anybody of talent allowed to accumulate money to produce worth even under your government's watchful eye. And it's just kind of hard to deal with that, especially with how brutal they've been, and who knows how brutal they are now. We will be tempered in daily actions, creating a new human being with a new technology. The personality plays the role of mobilization and leadership insofar as it incarnates the highest virtues and aspirations of the people and does not become detoured. The road is opened up by the vanguard group, the best among the good, the party. The basic raw material of our work is the youth. In it we place our hopes, and we are preparing it to make the banner from our hands. If this faltering letter has made some things clear, it will have fulfilled my purpose in sending it. Accept our ritual greetings as a handshake or an Ave Maria Purissimi. Patria o muerta. 8:15. We're done. We did it. We got to the end. Awesome sauce. All right, so let me go over and let me go grab from my playlist so I can tell you what's up. In fact, I am going to drop it here in the chat room as a chat room drop. That's what I'm doing. I'm giving you guys kind of this exclusive chat room drop thing. I'll get to this in due time. All right. So, which one am I doing first? This is the one that I might do first, that I'm picking to do first because, like the letter, it covers Shay in a favorable light, I think. I have to double check and make sure that's what it's doing. And we'll see. Because it's coming from a channel called Marxism Today. It seems to be pretty pro-socialist. So, we're going to go through that. I have no idea about Marxism Today. I'm doing it blind. But it's called Che Guevara, Revolutionary Hero. Che's Life, Legacy, and Theory. Then, I am going to try from Best Documentary Channel, if it pans out, because I have to check this one too, The True Faces of the Che. That's what this one is called. So we'll get a little bit of pro and con going on. So, that's about it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And I will catch you all later.